Hi, I'm Paul Tuigo from Kansas City, Missouri in the United States. This is my final video on digital elevation models for cycling, where I challenge my CS50 Python Final Project against a couple of courses. Starting where I left off in the last video, here again is the benchmark plot of the 12 laps for the Wildcat Hollow course. The laps are evenly split into two bunches. The lower bunch, that is all but on top of the course line, are laps all in the uphill direction. The upper bunch are laps all in the downhill direction, where the average speed was double that of the uphill. The speed discrepancy was even greater on the steeper sections of the course. I conjecture the higher speed on the downhill laps exacerbates the lag associated with damping the elevation measurement. I tested this hypothesis by limiting downhill speed after the end of my next interval workout. What is shown here on the left is the last 4 laps of this activity. The last uphill interval, a downhill, an uphill, another downhill. The last 3 laps were limited to 10 kilometers per hour. The green line outlier to the right is the last uphill interval at high speed. Okay, it turns out my interval speed isn't that fast. So this line is bunched with the other laps. Contrasting this plot with the plot of my previous interval workouts shown on the right confirms my suspicion. Let's return to the Poudre Canyon course. Here is the raw plot for the Strava version of the course. You can see how well the shape of the GPS laps look like the course, but with varying amounts of vertical offset. This is the benchmark plot of this course. All the lines are practically on top of each other. The standard deviation of the difference between the average benchmark GPS elevation and the Strava course elevation for all course track points is 1.35 meters. I've zoomed in very close and annotated to illustrate this calculation. So the 4 solid lines is the lap data. Looking at a given track point and taking the average of those 4 laps is the dashed dot line here, and this is the value at this point. The difference between that and the course value is then squared and summed and then divided by the number of track points minus 1, taken the square root, and that is the standard deviation I've tried to describe. Here are the benchmark plots against the Open Runner course. I don't mean to beat up on Open Runner, but its profile least resembles that of the GPS's. Here is a summary table of the benchmark calculations. Since all the routers have similar values for difference in elevation between the start and the finish, the piecewise calculation of the total climb for the benchmark versions are all similar between routers, about 630 meters. This is closer to the Strava value of 667 meters than the other routers. For another challenge of my program, I studied an SR600. SR600s are 600-kilometer randonneur permanent courses sanctioned by Province Randonneurs with at least 10,000 meters of climbing. I selected an SR600 in South Korea called SR-03 that was ridden by an expatriate friend of mine in 2022. A total of 3 rides were homologated from that year. I've obtained the Strava GPX exports of these rides for this study. Open Runner claims a total climbing of 11,506 meters for the course. Here's a table of the climbing for this loop course for the 4 routers I chose to use. Note the lowest value is 9,720 meters, which is for Strava. Here's a plot of the entire course for the 4 routers. It's hard to contrast anything at this zoom level. Zooming into the first 50 kilometers, the routers show similar behavior to the Poudre Canyon. The plotter route trace isn't readily apparent because it is identical to the open runner for almost every track point. But zooming in further, I did find a few minor differences. Writer A did a serious shortcut of the course. Therefore, I could only use 2 of the activities for the full length of the course. These 2 activities averaged 9,320 meters of climbing. SR600s also have a 60-hour time limit. Local barometric pressure can vary widely over such a time period. Changes in local barometric pressure cause vertical drift errors in the altitude measurement. To help overcome this, I broke up the course into 12 segments, nominally 50 kilometers each. I sought to break the course where the area was flat, the idea being to improve the accuracy of the endpoints that become the segment benchmarks. After breaking up the course into these segments, I analyzed which activities I would include in the study of a given segment. I excluded Writer A from 2 of the segments for deviations from the course. Writer B was excluded from the first segment because of a GPS anomaly, and the last 2 segments because the GPS would occasionally exhibit a sawtooth. Writer C was excluded from the penultimate segment because of a GPS anomaly. Total climbing from these segments for the benchmark GPS data is 9,017 meters. With so few activities, it's not surprising that there isn't better agreement between the Strava course and the GPSs. But the double-digit percentage difference on the first segment sticks out. A look at the graph for this segment shows 4 odd drops in elevation on the Strava course between kilometers 37 and 42. These drops correspond to parts of the course that Strava considers the surface type to be unknown. A slight tug of the Strava course where the surface type is unknown caused imperceptible changes to the course. These changes made both the elevation drops disappear and the surface types to become paved. Unfortunately, Strava's course editing toolbox is primitive, and it is difficult to prevent it from making wholesale changes otherwise to the course. Switching over to Kansas City, the 200K brevet for our region used a new course in 2023. There were portions of the course where few, if any, had ever uploaded an activity to Strava. So on the left here, I've shown the course drawn, and over on the right is the same area in the Strava editor, but without the course itself, so you can see the heat map underneath. And you'll notice down here in this town of Savannah where the roads have a blue tint to them. The darker the blue, the more individuals that have ridden on the respective road. And looking over on here on the right, you can again see some of the heat. But then you look at the road that was used for our 200K brevet, and there's no perceptible heat at all. So as a result, Strava's digital elevation model can be inferior to other routers for such portions. An example is kilometers 31 to 38 of this course for Strava. The green line implies that the road is a series of stair steps. Certainly, I am a proponent of Strava's crowdsourced digital elevation model, but it is dependent upon the kindness of mutual strangers uploading their activities. As an aside, activities on Strava are used to feed into their Strava Metro product. This product is used by urban planners and active transportation advocates for bicycle advocacy. All I can say is to keep writing, and as they say, if it ain't on Strava, it never happened. Thanks for watching. I look forward to any questions or comments you might have. In the near future, I'll be studying the 2023 Paris-Brest-Paris and other long courses where several activities are available to study. I hope to make reasonable claims about the true amount of climbing on some long courses. If you rode the 2023 Paris-Brest-Paris and would like your activities included in the study, please reach out.